Okay, we finally start the most relatable part of grade 9, simple interest. There are some formulas in this entire chapter that you have to kind of remember. The first one is your simple interest formula. It is I equals PRT. So this is just what those letters mean. You might want to write them down so you can refer to them. Once I erase the board, you won't have this anymore. So if you don't write them down, it surely means that you do not care. So interest is the letter capital I. This is just extra money earned or paid on an initial amount of money. So if I borrow $100 from someone and I have to pay him back 10% interest, in a year, I have to pay him $110. But the interest is just $10. Okay, so that's what we're looking for, just the interest that we have to pay or make. The principal, the P, is just the initial amount of money invested or borrowed. It would be that $100 that I borrowed from someone. The interest rate is the percentage of the principal paid as interest, always expressed as a decimal. So if I was paying 10% interest on that $100, 10% would be the interest rate, but it'd be 0.1. I have to change it to a decimal. We don't use percents in math. The word percent is kind of like how you phrase a sentence in English. In math, we use the decimal. And then T is the time, number of years. Okay, we always calculate in number of years. If I'm only investing it for like 6 months, that's just going to be half of a year. So first example, I got to calculate the simple interest on a loan of $1,000 at 5% for 6 years. So I got to figure out what letter everything is. So I know that $1,000 is the initial amount of money. That's the P, the principal. 6 years is the easy one. That's just time. And then interest rate is blue. And that's my interest rate. So I got to come up with a formula, and that's going to be I, which is the interest, because it says calculate how much interest, equals P, 1,000, R, 6 years. Sorry, R is not 6. Let me just change this up. R is 5%, 0.05. You got to change it to a decimal. If you use 5, that's 500%. So you're going to be way off. And then years is 6. Get your calculator, plug it in, and you should get $30. $300. 1,000 times 0.05 times 6 is $300. Calculate the simple interest on a loan of $1,000 at 5% for 6 years. The interest, just the amount of money that I have to pay on top of that $1,000, is $300. Okay, so if you buy something for $1,000 today and you get a loan for that $1,000, you're going to be paying back $1,300 at the end of the loan. Okay, if it's in simple interest. Guys, nothing's in simple interest. This is kind of all fake stuff, but it's a really good introduction to understanding how interest works. Okay, it's not really calculated this way. Okay, another example. Sometimes we don't solve for the I, we solve for any of these letters. And because we know how to move equations around, that's not going to be that much of a problem, right? So for instance, Josh invests $750. So I know this is the principal. At 10%. 10% is my interest rate. Per year, simple interest. If he wants the money to grow to $1,000, how long will he need to invest for? So this $1,000 is tricky because guys are going to use 1,000. But if he started with 750 and has to grow to 1,000, his interest, his I, is actually 250. Okay, so that's a hard part about this question. I mean, it's not that difficult. I'm going to say it again. He didn't make 1,000. If he started with 750 and he needs 1,000, he has to make 250. So now I can plug this into my formula. Well, I know the I, so I equals PRT. I know I is 250. I know the principal is 750. I know the interest rate is 0.1, but I don't know T. Because it's asking how long will he need to invest for. I got to figure out what T is. So I can multiply these two together. if I really want. That's just 75t. And now I'm in a situation with a really easy equation to solve for. I could just divide by 75 to solve for t. So 250 over 75 gets rid of it here. I can pick up my calculator. 250 divided by 75 equals 3.3. I conclude, therefore, Josh will need to invest for 3.3 years. Okay? You need to know how long you need to invest, because whenever you're investing money or you're talking about money, there's always a goal in mind. I need to buy a car at this time. I need to buy a house at this time. I need to have this much money in this time. So once you see a goal, you kind of backtrack and see, well, what do I have to do to accomplish that goal? And it's like the most mathy thing ever, because it's just numbers, right? You just have to achieve those goals. Okay, there's another formula in this chapter. It's the amount. So when I said someone's borrowing $100 and he's paying back $10 in interest, the amount is the interest plus the principal. It's $110 because he borrowed 100 and he has to pay back 110. So the formula is just A equals P plus I. But because we know I could also use this formula. I don't have to, okay? But I could also use P plus PRT. So all I did there was replace I with what we know. Because sometimes when I see the letter I, if I don't have the letters in there, it's going to be tough for me to solve. So I just break it down into more letters. Okay? So you could remember this one, and you can get out of more situations. Okay, so let's see how this one works. Liam invests $2,500 in a savings account that earns a simple interest rate of 4% per year. So I know the interest rate per year. Liam invests $2,500. I know the principal. The principal is always how much you're starting with, always. Calculate the total amount of money in the account. So I need A. Okay, but I also have 6 years. So this question is saying, calculate the total amount of money, A. So I'm going to use my P plus I formula. I don't know how much interest he made, so now I have to find interest. So you could just do this. I could do I equals PRT and do this as a separate question, then plug it back in. You could do that. Or you could just replace this with this, like I did over here. A equals P plus PRT. Now I'm going to plug in everything I know over here. 2,500 is P. So I replaced both P's with 2,500. R is 4%, so 0.04. And the time is 6 years. Okay, once I replace everything with what I know, it's just calculator work, right? I'm going to go 2,500 plus 2,500 times 0.04 times 6 equals 3,100. Read the question again, because sometimes I forget while I'm doing math what I'm even solving for. I read that last sentence. Calculate the total amount of money in the account after 6 years. So Liam started with 2,500 in this scenario, and he ended with 3,100. So I have to write a therefore statement always. Therefore, there is 3,100 in the account after 6 years. Okay. Really easy, guys. Simple interest is kind of linear, which means the slope is just how much interest you're making every year. That interest doesn't change. That's kind of unrealistic, because when we talk about real money, you also make interest on your interest, which now makes it exponential. Okay, so we're going to learn the difference between simple interest and compound interest tomorrow, but this is a good way to start. So this is a very easy section. You only have to remember this formula, and then you can put them together into this. Okay, that's pretty much it.